Hi, you're watching NME. I'm Andrew Trendell.
I'm Christopher Hooton.
And you're watching Speaky Blinders, a new episode all about Season 5 of Peaky Blinders. What a great series that was.
Yeah, definitely. I think I enjoyed it more than the third and the fourth. It was more kind of, we'll get into it obviously, but more dense as well. There was a hell of a lot going on in there compared to Season 4, I think. So it's, yeah, it was an exciting one.
Yeah, well, we interviewed the director Anthony Byrne earlier this year, and he said that the first couple of seasons felt like a kind of western set in Birmingham. Season 4 was very much a gangster shootout kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit silly the last season in a way, I thought.
Yeah, I feel also the villains felt like a little bit cartoonish, whereas they felt a bit more real, I think, this time. But yeah. Anthony Byrne did a great job on the new episode. So like it's amazing, you know, every time you see the budgets increase a little bit as the show gets bigger and bigger, they're just able to have more and more fun with it. And by this point, the production design, the lighting and everything is just like exquisite on every shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Anthony said, he said the last one was kind of a bit of a cartoony gangster shoot 'em up. He wanted this one to feel much like a political thriller.
Mm. Yeah, I think, you know, all credit to Adrian Brody, and he did a fine job as Luca Changretta in Series 4, but I just never really believed it. I felt like I was watching a guy doing the mafia.
Whereas, the cocktail stick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Whereas, like, Sam Claflin as Oswald Mosley, in the sense that he was the main villain this season, was just kind of nailed it and just seemed settled into the role really easily and seemed way more kind of, you just believed it, I think.
Yeah.
And it was more interesting, you know, we've seen mafia stories a million times, even though I love them. So this was just kind of that taking it in that political direction was a little bit more interesting, I think.
Yeah. Well, because each season always sets up the Shelbys versus a very specific threat. The last time it was the Italians. This time, well, it was fascism, for one, the rise of fascism. But also it was kind of Tommy himself. This season seemed to spend a lot of time inside Tommy's head. Yeah,
although I kind of disagree with you in that, in the sense that, like, well, I thought it was cool that I felt like they made a concerted effort not to make it the Peaky Blinders versus someone this season. Yeah. So you had, like, the Billy Boys in Scotland, you had the Irish, you had some of the Chinese gangs, and you had, like, the fascist party as well. So it seemed like they were intentionally making this, like, maelstrom of different threats and stuff, which I thought was cool. Mm. But in terms of Tommy, like, there was this whole kind of him flirting with suicide running through the whole thing. But I remember, was it season 4 when he really kind of went off the rails, and there was a long stretch where he was just drinking like on the floor of his bedroom and kind of having visions and stuff. And
that was when he tried to calm down and just like become a rich man who plays golf.
Yeah,
it didn't work out so well.
I think we spent a lot of time in his head there, whereas this time it was more choppy in the way it was done. I think as well, same with Arthur, whereas like before we'd seen him kind of really crumple, whereas this time he was back to this sort of like attack dog mode for the most part, which I quite liked.
Yeah, that was great. And also, the Peaky Blinders has always been a show full of very strong women. And what's been good about this season is it's very much been a case of the women telling the men what is and isn't possible. Yeah, obviously we had Anya Taylor-Joy come in, who's just an interesting presence in the show. She has such a specific look and just kind of is there hovering in the background. I see.
And you don't really, even across all the episodes, fully get a sense of what she's about, but you kind of can tell that she has some kind of control over Michael. So that was definitely interesting.
How much did you read into the Mosley connection? Because during the Swan Lake episode, there was a...
Yeah. I thought that was nice. That I thought, you know, out of some of the moments were handled more subtly than others, but I thought that was really nice. That there was literally just a nod, and I think at the time I was kind of like, I thought it was like flirtatious, but then as you know, we head into the finale, you come to realise that possibly it's a little bit more sinister than that.
Yeah. How much would you read into that?
Yeah, I think, you know, she, as well, I couldn't help but think she's got the whole Aryan look going on. I kind of felt like she was a shy fascist or something, that she was sort of maybe an in there for some kind of alliance that we haven't yet heard about, but I guess we'll hear more about in the next season. But yeah. Shy
Fascist sounds like a really bad punk band from the 70s.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And speaking of other new characters, let's talk about Oswald Mosley. How well was he played? Because I don't know, I always think it must be more fun and more of a challenge for people to step up and play such a true thoroughbred bastard.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, in this climate, sometimes people were reluctant to, or they think they might get some stick for, you know, playing such a kind of odious person. So props to Sam Claflin for just like, yeah, stepping up, and I thought he did a great job, especially the fact that he was so kind of subtly worked into the show. I thought when I heard that he was going to be the centerpiece, I thought it was going to come episode 1, bam, he does the big fascist speech, but it really wasn't like that at all. You know, he was just in the shadows in Parliament, and then he kind of worked his way into it. But I just thought I really liked the way his sort of the enunciation he had down was very like the wireless radio voice of you kind of think of the period. So I thought he did a great job, especially as you know that beautiful scene where he was giving the speech and you had everything going on with the Swan Lake performance and Linda coming up the driveway. That was a really beautifully directed sequence, and I thought he really kind of shone through in that as well. Yeah,
the other thing that surprised me was that the show writer Stephen Knight said that a lot of his dialogue, because it draws so many parallels with what's going on today with the rise of the far right, this was stuff that was actually said. He actually said Britain first. He actually said, you know, essentially make Britain get great again, these kind of things. So
yeah, I didn't know that he'd said Britain first. I thought that was just a really kind of like on the nose nod at like Trumpism, but that's interesting that actually was a real detail. But yeah, I think it just brought a new aspect to the show that we hadn't really seen, a little bit of politics without it becoming too overtly political, which was nice. It kind of had a lot of stuff, a lot of different tones going on in this season, I think more so than previous ones, which was cool.
History repeats, sorry. And the Billy Boys, another new addition.
Yeah.
Did you rate the accents?
I mean, I'm not a person that ever gets annoyed with accents. I know so many people do.
I just love the theatre of it.
Yeah.
Banging the drum.
Yeah, and obviously that was all the thing they actually used to do. They used to come in to sort of, because I was reading about them, you know, coming in like a marching band everywhere they go, and they'd make their own songs and stuff. But I mean, they were used sparingly. But Brian Gleeson, who played Jimmy, the leader, I thought he didn't have a huge amount of lines, but I thought he established himself in it quite well actually, and his scenes were quite fun. And one with Tommy by the canal, kind of talking about of all the people that our boss might want to lead the London contingent, a Jewish man's probably not. I thought that whole scene was really fun, and his kind of rivalry with Arthur as well. So yeah, it was an interesting addition, even though they didn't ultimately end up being the big kind of villain they were maybe set up to be in the first couple of episodes.
Yeah. Oh, his line about Alfie being dead is less of an obstacle than Alfie being Jewish.
Yeah.
It was really good. And the crucifixion scenes.
Yeah.
Wow, so well done.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. I sometimes have I struggle to care much about the Gold family.
Oh, but Aberama was amazing this season.
I don't know.
His hair.
I like him. I just feel like I don't know the guy so much, so I struggle. Him, one thing, but his kid, I'm more like Yeah. But no, they were nicely shot, those scenes with the crucifixion. They were pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, if you go back and watch the previous episode of Speaky Blinders, we had Jack Rowan in here, and he said that he was very excited about stepping up and becoming a Peaky, and he lasted an hour.
Yeah. You never know with a show like that, do you? You can literally come and go so easily.
Yeah. And Colonel Ben Younger.
Yeah.
Potentially the father of Ada's child.
Yeah, I was kind of
led to believe.
I was kind of surprised. I kind of liked it in a way that when Tommy, went round to tell Ada, she was kind of like, She obviously, she felt for him, but I like that she, it wasn't this big tearful scene where she was like, "This is the love of my life."
Yeah, he was okay.
It seemed like a nice guy. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I feel like that character just never really got a chance to really make an imprint on the show, like intentionally. Like they set up this whole thing, with the black chess piece being knocked down. And you thought he was going to become really kind of pivotal, and then he's just kind of like snuffed out, which is sort of a bit of a bait and switch or a red herring. I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, well, he was kind of Tommy's way out.
Yeah,
and then snuffed out immediately.
Yeah, one of my favourite additions this season, though, like in the 11th hour, was the sniper. A slightly insane sniper, Barney.
Oh, he was incredible.
Yeah, because it's not easy
to
come into a show like that, and your first scene is really late on in a season, and it's just you and Cillian Murphy. It's tough, but he really held his own, and he seemed like a really fully formed character who felt very much part of the of the Peaky universe.
Yeah, you felt there was a history there between him and Tommy, didn't you?
Yeah, it actually, in a way, his performance reminded me of Tom Hardy a little bit. There's something about him, but...
Well, that's what was annoying, because BBC had this teaser of Tommy going to the asylum, and you were like, it's Alfie.
That's
it's
what I
gonna be
thought
Alfie.
when I was watching it,
Yeah. But no, this amazing former comrade, Barney, just awesome. So unhinged. It's fucking Wednesday. I love that bit.
Still made absolutely zero sense as a strategic move, but fortunately I think they addressed that. And when Tommy presents it, everyone was like, okay, that's not going to work out well, is it?
Abraham Gold said, so, you're pinning your life and your future on this doped up lunatic who's going to be full of coke and stood a foot away from you with a shotgun, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I really wanted him to survive.
Yeah, I did. I thought
spoiler, but we forgot to mention, this show will be full, this is going to be full of spoilers.
Yeah, season ending. But no, yeah, he was fun. I guess, it didn't make sense for him to probably stick around after that, but he was a fun character while he lasted for all of half an hour.
Yeah, but there's been so many shock deaths. Twitter was up in arms when they thought that Arthur's wife had died.
I was really hoping, I've got to say.
Have you had enough?
I've had enough, Linda. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just enjoy seeing Arthur go full rogue, but yeah, I already thought she was done for as well. I thought with that gunshot from Polly, that was going to be it. But it was kind of, I suppose it was more subtle the way they did it, of her just making it through there, but then being like, you know what, actually, just no. Yeah. And just kind of leaving. But I feel like that's probably the end of that now. I'd be surprised if there was I don't know if I could see a whole...
She's gone and come so many times now. You know, I think another return might be labouring it a little bit.
Yeah, unless, it would take Arthur going on this massive kind of redemption arc, and I feel like he's already had that.
He had that, when he grew his hair long
and feeding chickens or whatever, so I think he's already tried that once, so I think that's maybe we can just put a line under that one now.
Yeah, long hair and farm life did suit Arthur though, I quite like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, but so they were up in arms when Grace originally died. And I think kind of the people's reaction to these shock deaths kind of shows the ridiculous popularity of Peaky Blinders. I think this was the most viewed season yet. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's cumulative, isn't it? And every, the word spreads, so you can kind of expect and hope for more viewers. But I don't know what it is about this season that kind of really grabbed people. I think partly the politics probably drew a few more people in. The whole thing with Tommy being an MP, I remember it all happened really quickly at the end of Series 4, and it was like, oh okay, he's the MP now.
We're just like, oh, yeah.
And I was maybe like, how's this going to work? I can't really imagine it. But then, his scenes in Parliament were a lot of fun, actually. And I liked the one with the short-lived journalist as well was good.
That was a good... Yeah, I thought they would have made more of that.
Yeah.
Because they started to investigate Tommy, didn't they? And then they just went, yep, that's it, done now.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll kind of return to that at some point. But... yeah, I know it was interesting, that aspect to it. So I'm not sure what the secret sauce is though that's made this one so popular.
I think it's because there were so many question marks hanging above it.
Yeah.
Like, will Alfie return? What of? I don't know.
Yeah. Also, this kind of hint that it might move overseas and stuff. There's still kind of a lot in play.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by this whole. So obviously, this whole Michael storyline is now huge. Just went overnight into this, this enormous thing, and that's going to be in what I don't know, but I think might be the final season next season.
Oh no, there's going to be 2 more.
There's going to be 2 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll move on to that later.
Yeah.
But back to the popularity. I mean, have you seen any of these amazing? Well, some of them are amazing, some of them are naff, some of them are just plain awful. The Peaky Blinders themed nights.
I mean, I've heard of them, but I can't say I've ever been to one. But have you made it down?
Well, I went to the Legitimate Peaky Blinders Festival.
Nice.
Which was kind of worried about. You know how around late November, early December, you start hearing about these Santa's grotto has gone horribly, horribly wrong, where Santa's drunk, it's just a shed with some tarpaulin on it, the reindeers are just donkeys with horns taped on, etc.
Yeah.
I was preparing for the lowest, most basic kind of tribute thing. But actually, it was really good. Obviously, everyone was dressed up, but it was essentially like secret cinema with live dancing. The cast were there doing a panel. There was an amazing music lineup of artists that felt peaky. everyone kind of involved in the soundtrack. Liam Gallagher, Anna Calvi, Richard Hawley, etc.
Yeah, I mean, they got plenty to draw on from that, which is nice music-wise.
Yeah.
Did they had like recreate the Garrison, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they recreated the Garrison. They had some, some gypsy wagons there, and a Peaky Blinders ballet, which I was genuinely moved by.
Wait, was the narrative a Peaky Blinders narrative?
Yeah.
Or, really?
Yeah, it was 10 minutes, just kind of compounding all of the Peaky Blinders into just one long movement.
Interesting.
Sounds shit.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful, man.
What did you wear for the occasion?
I'm not that kind of guy. I can't wear a hat with hair like this.
I like to imagine there were some people there in just really rogue specific outfits. There were some Abrahamagolds walking around, and
there were plenty of Abrahamagolds. Watching a gig from the back of the crowd with all of the flat caps was just so surreal.
Yeah, that's jumping back in time.
But anyway, so we went down and talked to some of the fans and had a quick word with Stephen Knight as well about what it was all about. Hi, you're watching Enemy. I'm Andrew Trendell, and we're here at the Costadale Brummie with creator Stephen Knight. How is it today walking around your vision? And that sounds a bit pretentious, but walking around your baby, that sounds even worse. Walking around your creation.
Your show.
And sharing it with people.
It's great. I mean, I love it. I've always been impressed from the first series. It began sort of episode 3 of series 1, where fans started to do fan art, and a lot of people have had tattoos and they've decorated their trucks and stuff. And it is the sincerest compliment you can get, I think, is when people who are just watching the show have that response to it. And it's grown and grown, and now, of course, there are bars and there are beers and there are gins and all kinds of things are Peaky related. And it's become a real part of the culture, not just here, but around the world.
What was your mission statement when it was decided this was going to happen?
Just to do it properly, I think, or do it better, because there's no point moaning about other people doing stuff if you're not doing it as well. They're just doing it, they're getting on with it, and I completely admire people who do that. Just open the bar, fine, but as long as it's delivering what the show delivers, and so it's now up to us to do everything better.
Did you ever go to any of the knockoff Peaky festivals?
I never went, no. I mean, there's one, the Black Country Museum one is great, apparently. I know people who've been, and that was really good. But other ones weren't so good, and it was because of that we felt we should start to do it ourselves. I mean, I've felt this for a long time. I set up the clothing company just because I just wanted to do some good quality stuff for people instead of people just buying rip-off things. And the festival is similar to that. We're really starting this autumn to merchandise the show, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. And this, the way it's shaping up, is going to be fantastic. So yeah, I mean, next year we want to do Birmingham and Boston, and possibly London as well. But we want this to become a regular thing.
Stephen Knight there at the Costadale, Birmingham. I don't think Birmingham has ever seen so much sunshine in ever. Because I wanted the Peaky Blinders Festival to be like rolling smoke down the canal.
Yeah, lots of braziers full of fire and...
Yeah, lots of blood and hatred, but it was actually just everyone having a really nice time. Who knew? Oh, so the lineup, Liam Gallagher, Richard Hawley, very much artists that felt peaky, and we asked Cillian Murphy about this, about what he felt that an artist took to be peaky, because the soundtrack has a very certain feel.
He's very into music as well, isn't he?
He loves it. He's got a really good Six Music show, which you should check out. He was saying that him and Polly are always like recommending bands to each other on set, which is quite a nice image. Nice. But he said that for an artist to feel peaky, they need to feel like an outlaw or an outsider or someone who has withstood the tyranny of the mainstream.
Nice.
Yeah. What did you make of the music used in this season?
Yeah, I've like sometimes had a hard time with obviously using. It's very bold that they use music like from a different time period, but ultimately I think, especially when you've got to do 5, 6, 7 seasons, it makes sense, because otherwise you're going to be stretching the kind of 1930s, 40s kind of old-timey music pretty thin by that point, so it's given them a lot of options. It must be like an absolute dream to be a music supervisor on this show, because you can just have so much fun with that. But I thought, yeah, it was really nice. They obviously thought about it really carefully for this season, and like the rearrangement of Pappy Pacify by FK Twigs that kind of ran,
that was another
throughout it.
Anna Calvi jam. That was beautiful as well.
Yeah. They had that Twigs song that I think started and closed the season as well, which was beautiful, and it made so much sense for Idols to be in it.
I
remember watching
the scum scene.
I remember watching the show thinking like, surely Idols is going to be on this soundtrack, and then they were. So, especially with the whole kind of like proletariat rising vibe, like it just made a lot of sense. It was cool.
And they always save Radiohead for that real kind of gut punch.
Yeah,
moment.
there's so much Radiohead in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Yeah. And so you mentioned the FKA Twigs, which was by Anna Calvi, because director Anthony Byrne told us that he thought that the last season lent too much on contemporary music, and they were just kind of dropping them like cats and getting people to cover Red Right Hand for the sake of it. Whereas this time, because they wanted to spend more time in Tommy's head, they wanted a score to reflect that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think as well, before sometimes it's been, or certainly in earlier seasons, it's been like very, very indie and very guitar rock and very like Nick Cave and all things that sound like Nick Cave, whereas now I think they're experimenting with it a bit more and stuff that's a bit more like orchestral or minimalist. So yeah, I think that's quite cool. I also liked as well in the last episode when Tommy goes to see Alfie that they kind of piped in the music.
That was cool, yeah.
Like really just like breaking the fourth wall there, just having like modern music sound as though it's coming out from a gramophone and filling the apartment. I thought it was like brazen and wicked.
Yeah. So Calvi's involvement came about because they started by just dropping in some Calvi tracks to certain scenes, and they said they had such a good response that they decided to just have her score the whole thing. And this sound, you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And every time Tommy's kind of losing his shit, it's just Anna breathing really, really heavily over the top as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It makes sense.
Because a lot of what Tommy's going through is kind of female voices and ghosts going through it, so it makes sense to have someone like Anna just saying, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. It was I took those breaths as being like Annabelle Wallis, it was Grace kind of in the background, kind of breathing, watching over him. So yeah, that's a nice touch.
So when the score comes out, it's just going to be wonderful, because Anthony Burns said that there's never really been a Tommy's theme.
No.
But I guess now we have.
Yeah, true. I think David Bowie, before he died, wanted to be a part of the show, didn't he? I think it was.
Yeah. They led Lazarus, and Tommy sent him a hat in return, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So Anna Calvi was a really big part of the Peaky Blinders Festival. She performed both days and invited Jenny Beth from Savages on stage with her, who also wrote an original song for this series, as well as Richard Hawley, who in the very last episode did an awesome Bob Dylan cover. So here's Anna Calvi telling us what it took to really get inside Tommy's brain and create some awesome music. And how did you rise to the challenge of becoming Peaky, and kind of, because a lot of your score for this series is kind of embodying Tommy's mindset. Was that a challenge for you?
It wasn't difficult, it was just a lot of fun, I have to say. It was just really incredible to just really, for it not to be about me and to really try and get into another character. And I really felt like when I was doing it, I almost believed that I was him. I kind of really got into the mindset of being Tommy Shelby.
Wow. What were you like around the house while you were
Moody,
Tommy?
very moody.
What's great about your music is your music kind of explores both the masculine and the feminine. And Tommy has a lot of feminine ghosts in his mind as well. So were you just kind of, was it a jumping off point from Hunter to kind of go down that path on here as well?
I guess the idea of, evoking something genderless is something that I definitely explored in my record Hunter. And I feel that there's something about Tommy that's not just, his wife or, Lizzie, that these are the people that make him have a feminine mind. I think there's something intrinsically kind of weirdly genderless about him as a character. Maybe it's something about the way that there's so much of what he does is like kind of not, it's not about him saying things, it's like you feel him thinking just by his stare. And he's always quite quiet, really, even though he does these very violent things.
Yeah.
There's a kind of almost kind of strange peacefulness inside him.
Yeah.
In the way he talks to people. Obviously, his mind is far from peaceful.
So while you were writing this, were you writing it with the scenes playing out in front of you?
Yeah, that's how I did it.
That's quite cool because, like, as you said, Tommy can say something with just a glare, whereas you can say something as well, which is like the gaps in your music, the silence and the breaths as well.
What was interesting is how most of the time, the less you put in, the better it is. And the idea of working with silence is kind of a really interesting thing. And also, I guess when the acting's so good, it's like it doesn't really need that much. You're underscoring, you know, something else. You're almost like a shadow to the character, you know.
Anna Calvi there, who said that, you know, getting inside Tommy's head and acting like Tommy Shelby for basically a year will make you a bit of a bastard, I imagine.
We should talk about Tommy's actual head, which is, I don't know if you thought, but I thought Tommy looked particularly terrifying this season.
Oh, yeah.
So he's
yeah.
becoming more like skeletal and gaunt. Like, I think, you know, and it makes sense with the amount of like opium he's taking on board, that he's just becoming like a really physically terrifying to look at.
Yeah, I think he's realised that not everything is possible. I think he's sensing his own mortality. Did you notice his cough as well?
No, I didn't.
His cough is increasing more and more throughout the season. I think that's going to become a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tommy's constantly worried about someone taking his throne, and about what is it he says in the last episode? He says, "I've never met a man I couldn't defeat," or something like that.
Yeah, he's always like searching for the man he can't defeat, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. So I guess, you know, that was the main big kind of twist of the final episode, and it made me realise that, like, you know, in a show like Peaky Blinders, a kind of criminal gang story, we're so used to kind of plots about someone coming to take the crown, you know, from within, you know, and the person at the top watching around, like, who's going to be kind of like challenging them or secretly undermining them. And I realised that I'd never even thought about that in Peaky Blinders. I think because Tommy's been such a dominating presence the entire time, you just accept him as the boss and never think, you know, Arthur's not going to have pretensions of like doing anything. So I realised that, you know, in 5 seasons, I'd not once thought about, obviously there's threats from outside, but not ever really thought about someone coming to kind of vie with him. But now we have Michael potentially doing that, which is interesting, unexpected. I don't know what you made of that.
Yeah, Michael's saying that he is the new generation, because obviously it was playing on, Tommy was quite paranoid about Michael taking the throne, but he actually made a lot of sense, didn't he, when he said that I want to do business, and businessmen don't want to, you know, deal with old school backstreet razor guns. They actually... Yeah,
he's kind of, to an extent, got a bit of a rough ride, hasn't he, throughout his time in the show, since he was liberated from like the countryside.
He was so sweet at the start.
He was, yeah.
He started kicking a ball in the back.
Everyone should just go back to their farms and just have a nice time.
Yeah. But that's what he said. He said he wants to relieve everyone of the burden. He wants Tommy to crack on with being an MP, because he knows everybody knows deep down that Tommy wants to be good. Yeah. And he wants to allow him to do that and take the dirty work off him. Arthur actually came out and said, let him fucking do it.
Yeah, he kind of had that moment where he's like, oh, Tommy, you know, maybe Michael's making sense after all. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to try and take over, that seemed like the most kind of friendly takeover you could do, where, you know, you're saying, look, you can go into retirement, here's loads of money, I'll sort everything, you'll just get money coming straight into your massive mansion. But I guess his mistake was, one, you know, trying to turn him into Mr. Jones, which I believe was the title of the episode.
Yes.
Taking someone's, almost felt like trying to take Tommy's legacy away, turning him into this, you know, Tommy Shelby being no more. And then obviously that comment about they don't want to deal with a razor gang just caused too many winces. I think he just, I guess, probably didn't sort the PR of that that pitch out quite right.
Yeah. The subtlety of that Michael stood there with this proposal that he's laboured over, that I imagine is full of whatever the 1930s version of spreadsheets were. Yeah. He's gone over everything with a fine-tooth comb. He has a business plan. Meanwhile, Tommy's plan is having a lunatic outside, high on opium, tied up on a rope, you know? Yeah. That's just amazing.
I was just thinking it's a shame you can't also throw an Excel spreadsheet on the fire, though. That would be a beautiful thing. Yeah, no, it made a lot of sense. Although, you know, he did fuck up massively with the stock market, right? So just, you know, his plan to just, we're all just going to shift to opium and everything's going to be fine. You know, maybe he hadn't proved himself enough for that plan to seem feasible. I don't know. Now I really want to know more about his time in America, I think, and what suddenly kind of, you know, because I don't feel like he left with these kind of pretensions of being the boss.
Yeah.
And since meeting Gina and spending time over there, I think it'll be interesting to know a little bit more where this is coming from, this desire to be on top.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because a lot of the previous seasons have obviously left some things open, but kind of wrapped up most of the questions in a nice little package, whereas this hasn't really resolved anything, this series, has it? Which is quite nice. It's going to be a 2-part series, what it feels like.
Yeah, it's really kind of, it's set it up really, hasn't it, for what I think will be the main thrust of the plot running through to the finish now, this kind of the family divided, and interesting, you know, and we saw obviously in the episode we see Polly just decide to check out basically and not take sides. Remains to be seen if the death of Abramogold changes that.
I'm good about that. I really liked Abramo. Did you not?
Yeah, no, I liked him.
You said you didn't know it.
Just to feel I feel like I didn't have as much of a fondness to him as, you know, some other characters. But
he just in this series he just developed so many amazing idiosyncrasies. I thought, like being sharp dressed, his amazing slow-paced accent there.
Yeah,
that
I do
wasn't
like
very
that.
good, but
but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what how that changes. But I feel like Polly was like, I'm just going to go and retire and live with him.
Yeah.
Now that's not on the table. I feel like her just not sitting on the fence is going to be over, and she's going to have to be still involved in this.
Yeah, we interviewed Helen McCrory earlier this year, and she said that while she loves the glamour and the money and everything, what she really loves is the action and the grit and the dirt. So I can't see her settling down to be a grandma knitting little booties for...
No, it's that thing of same with Tommy, you know, it's like the struggle's all they know. And yeah, no, I definitely can't see her knitting, so I think she'd definitely be involved in that action for sure.
Yeah. And of course, Abraham is dead, because the plot to kill Oswald Mosley went horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, kind of at the last minute, wasn't it? Called in by... I had no idea what was going on with that football match fixing subplot, and then turns out that was the function of it.
It was
ultimately, but yeah, shit did hit the fan very quickly amid that plan. But
Really great.
Finn fucked it really, didn't he? It was him letting slip about the plan that kind of scuppered things. So I don't know if he faced any retribution for that.
So I think they made it quite obvious that it was Billy, don't you?
Yeah.
How far into the next season do you think that will come to light?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's sort of secret factions we don't really know about. So, you know, Gina is obviously interested in Oswald Mosley and his movement, and maybe, you know, plan B, as it were, when they didn't accept the nice proposal, was to kind of undermine them. But then you did get the sense that there were other actors that we don't really know who, the Irish singer who he belongs to. So it'd be interesting to see who exactly that was selling them out beyond just that man. But yeah, there's quite a few sort of threads still to be tied up in that respect next season.
And Finn's really come of age this season as well. Whose side do you think he's going to take?
Finn's who's with what do you call him, Billy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Finn's just like he's just enjoying cocaine and prostitutes, isn't he? I think he's like, he did have that scene where he sort of seemed to grow up, but then regressed for the rest of the season. So, but I think he'll be. I mean, he's got to be squarely in Tommy's corner, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he liked being taken seriously by Michael and with saying, "You're the new generation." So.
Yeah. But he doesn't have, I don't know if he has that. Michael seems to be the only one who kind of likes to wear a morning suit and act a bit more kind of sophisticated. So I don't know if the rest of them, whether they can align with his vision for the company. But it does, I do wonder if, you know, we are going to end up in America again. It's teased it so many times. I know Stephen Knight wants to make this a Birmingham story and wants to keep coming back to that. But whether the show's going to allow itself to head out there as Michael clearly wants to.
Yeah, and the last episode also reintroduced Winston Churchill. I think we had new Churchill, because Churchill was in previous seasons, but we have a new actor in this Churchill. Am I right?
I think so. Yeah. He just seems to kind of periodically pop in, doesn't he? But he's kind of established this interesting sort of affinity for Tommy, even though he knows all the kind of terrible shit about him now, it seems. So yeah, it seems like he's definitely got to be there for a reason beyond just the historical context of it. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of role, if any, he plays in it with the remaining seasons.
Yeah, because he basically said to Tommy, "We're fighting the same war here." So
Yeah.
I imagine it'll be like, I think Churchill will become Tommy's best friend in the next one.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with the whole fascism storyline. Are they just going to drop it, or obviously, Oswald Mosley lived until the age of 80, I believe. So, but is that going to take a back seat, and we're just going to focus more on the family story and the in struggle, or is politics going to continue to be a part of it? I don't really know yet.
Yeah. Well, just to say, there was this amazing Abraham Gold quote where he says, "Tommy, your ambition knows no limits." So. Will they just spit in the face of history and see him go for Prime Minister? I don't know.
I don't know. I still don't know how much I believe this whole Tommy wanting to do good thing.
Well, that's what Stephen Knight says, that he wants the whole story arc to end with Tommy finally being redeemed and proven that he is a good man and was trying to be a good man all along, but just sort of battling against his PTSD and his, being a slave to violence. So I think he wants to do what Grace told him to do, do something great for the world. Yeah,
you could kind of see it being quite bittersweet if they stick to, and this is kind of a major spoiler if you don't want to know, but in the past, Stephen Knight's talked about ending the show with the first air raid siren of World War II. You could kind of imagine having the sequence, where Tommy almost makes redemption, he's finally on the right track, and then the siren goes, conscription happens, and you're back in the trenches. I could see that being quite a nice way to end things.
They'll send Finn to war as well, because they've always made such a big deal of him not being a soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite subtle. I don't feel like Tommy's wants to be an activist and has got all these really big ideas. I feel like he knows how much grief and hurt and pain he's caused in his life. And I think he just is a desperate man on the brink of suicide anyway, and just feels like doing something that isn't just killing people. So I think he just wants to do a little bit of good if he can. That's the vibe I kind of get from him.
Another glimmer of hope for the new series. Alfie's alive. I knew he was alive. Go watch the last episode. I told you Alfie was alive.
Yeah, I know there's a huge obsession around him, so but he was in the back of my mind really the whole season, so I was kind of like, oh wow, when his name got casually dropped in there.
Yeah.
But it was a great scene. Obviously, if you're going to bring someone like Tom Hardy back, you've got to do him justice with the script, and that whole section where he in Margate in the mansion talking about how they'd erected a statue of him in the homeland, and he wanted to go back so he could stand in his own shadow. That was just such an incredible line. It was just a really, really cool exchange.
Yeah. But Margate got some flack in that.
It got so much flack. The people of Margate are going to be furious, because it's actually a very lovely place if anyone gets a chance to go. But I guess it just wasn't back then. Life
is easier when you're dead. Pause. If this is hell, it looks a lot like Margate. Well, I guess that's what hell just looks like. Incredible.
Yeah. But I don't know what do you think? I mean, it can't just be it. So do you think we're going to see more of Alfie?
I do, because now he needs some alliances against the fascists. So they set up this alliance with the Jews at the end of the last episode. So I think Alfie clearly had a vested interest in wanting to see Mosley shot. You heard when he turned on the radio and he was like, yeah, I want this to happen. So I think so. I think they'll use him sparingly though. Yeah, because I'm just so conscious as well that we're not going to be able to see fascism defeated and the fascist party defeated and Mosley died, because the show I think does obviously it plays with history and has some fun with it, but it does to hit the main beats, you know. So I feel like it can't end up in this big crescendo where the Jewish gang and Tommy team up and take down Mosley. So I wonder if Alfie's going to be drawn back into the show because of that, but actually it will take a kind of a different path maybe. Because didn't you originally have a theory that it was going to be a bit like Inglourious Bastards and just spit in the face of history, and they were just going to murder Mosley in the most amazing... Yeah, or it made me think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which obviously so famously this year just completely went against history. But I think, speaking to Stephen Knight, you know how much he's a historian himself, a student of history, and how much he looks to it to create storylines. I just can't see, it doesn't seem like the kind of show to just completely... It would change everything about the entire timeline. Would there even be a Second World War if, Mosley was defeated? He was, I think Hitler was at one of his weddings and stuff, he was so woven into that kind of, that context of the rise of fascism that it would be too bizarre, I think, to... So I think I'm kind of interested to see. I feel like that will just sort of, in the same way that in this season we've had loads of different things going on, people coming and going in the show, Irish, Scottish, I think we'll just kind of, it will still be there, that element, but I think it will fade a little bit maybe, until obviously
that we get the Second World War.
Yeah, well, because the last episode ends with Tommy marching off into the foggy field, just completely at war with himself, and
yeah, that was quite an intense ending. You know, I think you sort of expect a season of Peaky Blinders to end with, you know, a long, misty, slow shot, but it was him literally lurching towards the camera with a gun in his hand.
Yeah,
it was quite a cliffhangery ending, actually, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, well, a lot of people are going to assume he's going to do it, but as we know, he doesn't, because Steve's already told us there's 2 more seasons to come. But this is an episode where we learnt that Tommy's mum killed herself.
Just really irresponsible, I thought, from Charlie Strong there, just going steaming in with the your mum killed herself and her dad killed herself as well.
Yeah.
But don't do it.
Yeah. He said, it runs in the family, but fuck family.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing line. You're a gypsy. You've got to move around or everything catches up with you. So I think that kind of explains a lot about why Tommy's always, I'm going to be a politician now. Oh, I'm going to go into opium now. He can't sit still, can he?
No.
Yeah.
As we saw that time that he did try to just relax and fish by a river.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think I see him, you know, ultimately killing himself either. He's sort of this trapped in this world, it seems, and all he can do is just keep moving. Which is, I guess, why we have so much like empathy with him as a character, because a lot of people can relate to that. You know, the struggle might be a little bit less dramatic and just about like trying to get a paycheck and live, but you know, for him it involves guns and drugs and taking over the world. But that's why we like it, isn't it? I think we feel that he is someone that needs to keep moving, or his brain will just be going crazy, and that's kind of the empathy you have.
Yeah, but he does keep moving, as we know. So we're going to leave you with Stephen Knight summing up season 5, giving us a few teasers about what to expect from season 6. I asked him again about the possibility of a movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd watch that. And an Alfie Solomon spin-off. I'd watch that too.
I would definitely watch that.
That'd be amazing.
Young Alfie.
But Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Yep, good to see you.
We're going to leave you with Stephen Knight telling us about the future. So with regards to what you said about season 5 reflecting certain themes of what's going on today, where do you want to go with season 6?
Well, you know, it's fortunate for me and unfortunate for the world that Peaky, as it makes its 2 or 3 year leaps, keeps hitting stepping stones that are very resonant of what's going on. And so in series 6 we'll be looking at 1934 and things are worse. You know, the drum beat is getting louder, the tensions are worse, and Tommy's right in the middle of all of that. So again, it will be an exploration of what happened in the 30s, how certain things transpired.
Will Tommy remain an MP or?
Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, because another thing we spoke to Anthony Byrne about was how like the first season felt like a western set in Birmingham. Season 4 felt like a gangster setup.
Yeah.
This season 5 was very much a political thriller. Yeah. Do you have a kind of sense of vibe of what you want to do with the next one?
I think, I'm writing it at the moment, so it is a tragedy, I think.
And I imagine you're falling over yourself with people wanting cameos, etc. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm opening the door a bit. We've always had that. We've always had people who want to be in it, and really astonishingly good people. But the problem is that if you start populating the thing with, you know, people like that, then it's so distracting.
Yeah.
And even people who are not actors who want to be in it, again, that's really distracting. But now that we're getting into a certain territory, I am going to open the door to a couple of really good actors.
Yeah.
Not that our actors are all fantastic, but what I mean is celebrated actors who will be showing up in 6, hopefully.
You going to let David Beckham have a go at acting, or is that not
No. No, listen, he's great. I think he's fantastic. He's a hero of mine. Totally a hero of mine. Ever since he equalised against Greece, he can do no wrong. But it's part of what I'm saying is that if you have someone who is known beyond the world in that way, it sort of distracts.
Yeah. And the last time we spoke, you also mentioned the idea of spin-offs. Is that something that's at the forefront of your mind, or is that further down the line?
As long as the energy around the show continues to be what it is, and you know, as long as the fans are like this, then I'm happy to maintain the world. So that could be spin-offs, it could be a movie. We've got the Ballet Rambert doing the Peaky Blinders Ballet, which when I first talked about that, everybody thought I was joking. Yeah. And wait till you see it. It's unbelievable.
Are they in full outfit?
In full Peaky outfit, yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I saw the dress rehearsal, and I'm not a ballet person at all, and it's really emotional. It's brilliant.
Would you make a full series out of Alfie Solomon's potentially? I would watch that.
I would love to. No, Tom is like so into Alfie. So into Alfie.
Great. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Cheers.